In the Siberian Arctic, this is what we are seeing from Zach Labe. Unprecedented conditions continue in the Siberian Arctic with no sea ice freeze up quite yet. This is where we are at here. Yeah. And 1979 low. Here, all up in here. We're way off the charts, guys. Way off the charts. Okay, let's get into this tweet from Peter Kalmus. Out of the 13 measures on my ballot, not a one address the climate and ecological breakdown currently ravaging California and Los Angeles County, either for mitigation or adaptation. That's the level of institutional denial we're still in. Basically, every system needs to change. Well, yes, Peter gets it. Peter gets it, but the system is going to be hard-pressed to get it. Because something about a man's job, right? From Upton Sinclair, quote, it is difficult to get a man to admit the truth when his job depends on him not admitting the truth, right? Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So the system is going to be hard-pressed to agree. Because people's jobs depend on them continuing to engage in, support, defend, uphold the system that we are in. It is a great quote. Actually, let me find the real one if you want it. Hold on. Upton Sinclair. Upton Sinclair wrote a book called The Jungle, which is an amazing book. Man, it's a great book. If you ever get a chance to read The Jungle. And the quote is, "It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." So I messed it up pretty good. But it's the same idea. Same idea. Anthony Davis says, "I wish you had a large map of the Arctic on your caveman wall." That's a great idea. I don't know. Maybe I should just make it the background. Maybe if I get my green screen together, I could just make it the background of my green screen or something. I don't know. Thank you, Urk1. I appreciate you. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. More Peter Kalmus, and this is kind of what I wanted to get into today. He says, our planet is burning, melting, and flooding, and we haven't even ended fossil fuel subsidies yet. This is an absolute no-brainer, but the DNC promised not to end them. The fossil fuel industry has a death grip on our politics and our planet. Again. Oh my God. We got to vote Trump out. I mean, yeah, we got to vote Trump out. Yes. We got to vote Trump out. Yes, we got to vote Trump out. You can just end the sentence there. But, oh my God, Biden, because Biden is going to be better than Trump. That's where you don't need to go, right? That's where your sentence should not venture, because Biden is not better than Trump. Biden is still a supporter of fossil fuel industry. Biden is still a supporter of fracking. Biden is not a supporter of the Green New Deal. Biden is not going to do anything for you on the environment or on climate change other than some good old-fashioned lip service or some tinkering around the edges or, passing some bill that is, sets the date for completion at 2040 or 2050, right? So we're gonna do all these great things by 2040 or 2050. That's what's gonna happen. Yeah, the DNC is absolutely bought and sold. The DNC are Republicans trying to tell you that they are not, and they absolutely are. They are bought and sold. They are corrupt. I'm sorry, the progressives in the party don't have any power. They are not changing anything about this. Not yet. They're trying. but they're not really doing much. And the DNC has told us that they absolutely don't like the progressives, and they will do anything they can to get them out or not get them elected or reelected. So, Go Green replies, it's a death sentence for humanity, and they know it. The most heinous crime in all of history is to know that fossil fuel industry is killing the earth as a living planet, and they continue to do it for short-term profit. This is the Republicans and the Democrats, okay? There's not one is better than the other. They are both equally vile. But some people still believe that one is better than the other. And I'm talking about Republicans or Democrats, right? Republicans, oh, yes, we're better than the blue team. The red team beats the blue team. And the blue team is like, yes, the blue team beats the red thing. We're better. They're just the same, just with different, I don't know what, cultural politics maybe? I don't know. To further illustrate this, Claiborne, the Dems are better. At what? Better at what? They pass everything that Trump's puts down. They don't resist anything that Trump does. They don't resist any of his court picks. How are they better? Please explain. Because they talk nicer. They talk real good. Because they wear kente cloth and say Black Lives Matter when they don't care about Black lives. Is that what makes them better? Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, if that's what you want to believe, that's fine. I myself don't believe it. I myself don't see. I can't see it. Honestly, I can't. Well, here's a news article. This is from today. Exxon's plan for surging carbon emissions revealed in leaked documents. This is from today. Internal projections from one of the world's largest oil producers show an increase in its enormous contribution to global warming. They're projecting an increase. So we are subsidizing these fossil fuel companies, and by we, I mean the Democrats. I'm talking about the good guys are subsidizing the fossil fuel companies, and they are planning on increasing emissions. They're planning on more fossil fuel burning, not less. They're not planning to phase it out. They're not planning to, take themselves out of the picture. They're not planning on anything else but growth. And both of our political parties are going to help them in that goal. ExxonMobil Corporation has been planning to increase annual carbon dioxide emissions by as much as the output of the entire nation of Greece. An analysis of the internal documents reviewed by Bloomberg shows, setting one of the largest corporate emitters against international efforts to slow the pace of warming. Okay. So yeah, they're planning to expand and go big in the end times. The drive to expand both fossil fuel production and planet warming pollution comes at a time when some of Exxon's rivals, such as BP PLC and Royal Dutch Shell PLC, are moving to curb oil and zero out emissions. Exxon's own assessment of its $210 billion investment strategy shows yearly emissions rising 17% by 2025. According to the internal document. So, hey, in the short term, we're going to go bigger and better. The largest U.S. oil producer has made a commitment to lower oil and gas output or set a date by which it will become carbon neutral, and its near-term plans have been disrupted by fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. Exxon has also never publicly disclosed its forecasts for its own emissions. But the planning documents show for the first time that Exxon has carefully assessed the direct emissions it expects from the 7-year investment plan adopted in 2018 by Chief Executive Officer Darren Woods. The additional 21 million metric tons of carbon dioxide per year that would result from ramping up production dwarfs Exxon's projections for its own efforts to reduce pollution, such as deploying renewable energy and bearing some carbon dioxide. Some. We're going to bury some. That's what we're going to do. Exxon's growth in production would have increased emissions 17% by 2025. And they're going for an increase in 2021. Looks like 6% here and 11% by 2025. Okay. These internal estimates reflect only a small portion of Exxon's total contribution to climate change. Greenhouse gases from direct operations, such as those measured by Exxon, typically account for a fifth of the total at a large oil company. Most emissions come from customers burning fuel in vehicles or other end uses, which the Exxon documents don't account for. Oh, that means the full climate impact of Exxon's growth strategy would likely be 5 times the company's estimate. I'm going to read that one more time. That means the full climate impact of Exxon's growth strategy would likely be 5 times the company's estimate. But meanwhile, Exxon's like, we're committed to renewable energies. We're gonna fight the climate crisis with our own actions. We're gonna slap a Go Green sticker on every barrel of oil we sell, but we're gonna sell a hell of a lot of barrels of oil, right? We're planning on selling much, much more in the future. But at least we have a Go Green sticker slapped on the side of it. Had the company accounted for so-called Scope 3 emissions, if its plans are realized, Exxon would add to the atmosphere the annual emissions of a small developed nation or 26 coal-fired power plants. Ugh. The emissions projections are an early assessment that does not include additional mitigation and abatement measures that would have been considered as the next step in the process. Oh, doesn't that sound nice? Exxon said in a statement, the same planning document illustrates how we have been successful in mitigating emissions in the past. Really? Have you? Have you? Because they still are growing. Emissions are growing. Exxon often defends its growth plans by citing International Energy Agency estimates that trillions of dollars of new oil and gas investments are needed by 2040 to offset depletion from existing operations, even under a range of climate scenarios. However, experts say a reduction in global oil and gas production is necessary to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Another knee slapper right there. Exxon's ambitious growth plans, calling for higher cash flow and a doubling of earnings by 2025. A doubling of earnings by 2025. Yeah. Are a vestige of pre-pandemic times. Oh, well, that was in the past. This is now. The industry has been hard hit by COVID-19, which destroyed demand for oil and sent prices into a tailspin. Well, guess what? Guys, guess how we do this? You destroy the demand. You destroy the demand by what? By not using it. As demand returns and capital investments resume, Exxon added in the statement, our growth plans will continue to include meaningful emission mitigation efforts. The collapse of oil demand forced Exxon to cut its spending budget by a third in April. And its share price is currently hovering near an 18-year low. Exxon was removed from the Dow Jones Industrial Average earlier this week. The company last week warned of a third consecutive quarterly loss, meaning it's relying on debt to pay capital expenditures and dividends. As recently as July, however, Exxon indicated that it's merely delaying many projects to preserve cash during the downturn rather than canceling them. Fulfilling the plan would mean producing an additional 1 million barrels of oil a day. The emissions generated by the extra drilling and refining would increase the company's greenhouse gas emissions to 143 million tons of CO2 equivalent per year, the internal documents show. Oh boy, did we get to the good part yet? Yeah. Exxon has repeatedly shopped for growth over the last 10 years, and their returns have suffered, said Andrew Grant, head of oil, gas, and mining at Carbon Tracker, a financial think tank. Exxon is explicit that their business plan is informed by their own business outlook, which assumes continued demand growth for fossil fuels. The more than $30 billion per year investment plan was the centerpiece of Exxon's March 2018 Investor Day. Woods declared an ambition to build a suite. Don't you love that word? A suite of high-quality operations that would produce large volumes of oil and gas for decades into the future. Decades into the future. Regardless of changes in policy or price. They were like, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care what the price is. We don't care what their policies are being enacted. We are just going to produce this gas and more of it decades into the future. We're going to double our profits. After years of struggling with stagnant production, Woods zeroed in on 5 key projects: shale oil in the Permian Basin, offshore oil in waters belonging to Guyana and Brazil, and liquefied natural gas in Mozambique and Papua New Guinea. It's the richest set of opportunities since Exxon and Mobil merged, Woods told investors, a line executives have repeated ever since. Even though Exxon lags far behind Europe's biggest oil companies in setting targets to address global warming, it recently stepped up efforts to curb methane, a super potent greenhouse gas. The company has also joined a voluntary industry effort to lower its carbon intensity, quote unquote, producing oil and gas on a cleaner per barrel basis. That way we can slap the Go Green sticker on the side of that barrel there. That means we're going green. All right. Emissions intensity reduction targets by a company that was setting out, that just sounds emissions intensity reduction. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever the hell that means. By a company that was setting out to dramatically increase its production won't result in lower absolute emissions. Right? Get it? Did you get that? Emissions intensity reduction targets by a company that was setting out to dramatically increase its production won't result in lower absolute emissions. Got that? Said Kathy. That means, yeah, we're not taking down anything, right? We're not reducing shit. Said Kathy Mulvey, a campaign director at the Union of Concerned Scientists. Exxon's internal projections credit the company with the beneficial impacts of 24 emission-lowering measures, such as projects to capture carbon, reduce methane leaks and flaring, and use renewable energy. Without adjusting for these projects, which are termed self-help, quote-unquote, measures in the planning documents, Exxon's direct emissions in 2025 would surge to 154 million tons of CO2 equivalent, a 26% increase from 2017 levels. Good God. These emissions figures represent only a fraction of the total. Exxon doesn't disclose Scope 3 figures, unlike other big publicly traded oil producers. A recent effort by Bloomberg Opinion to estimate the total emissions of the world's largest fossil fuel producers put Exxon at 528 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2019. CDP, an independent group that tracks and encourages carbon disclosures, estimated Exxon's total emissions, here we go, at 577 million metric tons for 2015. Exxon's most recent public disclosures for its direct emissions, called Scope 1 and Scope 2, recognized only 127 million metric tons in 2018. Got that? That is called fancy accounting. That's called cooking the books. That's called, offshoring some of these here emissions. Externalizing some of these here emissions. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're doing. That is what we are doing. Yeah, guys. Planning documents showing the surge in emissions that would result from the investment strategy were widely circulated in internal Exxon meetings as recently as early this year, before the coronavirus spread beyond China. Unlike earning targets, Exxon never publicly announced its 2025 emissions goals, leading some employees to question whether the company was committed to reductions. Of course they're not. More than a third of Exxon's self-help measures rely on carbon capture, an expensive process that stores carbon dioxide underground. Allegations of inadequate disclosures related to the dangers of global warming have become a source of legal trouble for big oil. In June, Minnesota sued Exxon, Koch Industries, Inc., and the American Petroleum Institute for allegedly withholding critical information about the impact of fossil fuel use on climate change. All told, Exxon and other oil companies are being sued by about a dozen cities, counties, and states seeking compensation for consumers and taxpayers over the cost of adapting to climate change. Exxon denies wrongdoing in the suits, which it says are baseless and politically motivated. At the end of last year, the company won a related case brought by New York's Attorney General. Click here to see blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the pandemic has accelerated European oil majors' transition towards cleaner sources of energy, while giving Exxon an opportunity for a different type of strategic reset. So far, that has meant cutting headcount and employee benefits. There you go. Just, cut employee benefits. Shelving major projects or fire people. Cutting headcount means firing people. And reducing its global capital expenditure by $10 billion this year. Exxon's dividend yield now tops 10%. An indication investors expect the payout to be cut for the first time in decades. Exxon and its European peers have split over adaptation to a world in which major economies are moving to phase out fossil fuels. The U.S. oil giant has long aligned with the conservative wing of American politics. And what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The liberal wing totally supports you guys, so shut the F up. Woods' mentor and predecessor, Rex Tillerson, served as President Donald Trump's first Secretary of State, and earlier this year, Woods joined fellow energy CEOs at the White House to discuss reopening the U.S. economy. Exxon, of course, the Republicans are deeply aligned with the fossil fuel industry, so they're going to get a lot farther with them, I guess, but, Joe Biden is a friend to the fossil fuel companies, so there's no friction there. So is Pete Buttigieg. So is Beto O'Rourke. So are many of the Democratic candidates, were the Democratic candidates for president. Deeply aligned with the fossil fuel industry. So there was, they had friends in both parties. The company also donates to candidates from both parties, which I just said, and rejected some of Trump's measures, such as rolling back methane regulations. Whether or not Woods decides in the wake of the pandemic or a political shift in the U.S. to follow his European peers towards net zero emissions remains to be seen. But the trend from many of the world's largest countries and corporations is unmistakable, and it's not clear that Exxon's approach to growth reflects these big changes. Just last month, China pledged to be carbon neutral by 2060, a shift that would set into motion a more than 65% drop in its oil consumption and a 75% cut in gas, according to government-affiliated researchers. The EU is aiming to reach neutrality across all greenhouse gases by 2050, which will be partly funded by the Green Deal that invests in electrification of transport and promotion of clean hydrogen. Right. California announced a new plan to end the sale of gasoline power. So all of these things are very problematic, of course. And we've covered this extensively, and we will continue to cover this extensively because that's what we cover on Black Bear News. In a state that alone accounts for 1% of global oil demand, it's past time for ExxonMobil to take responsibility for the harmful impacts of its oil and gas products, said Mulvey of the Union on Concerned Scientists. The world at large and its own investors would benefit from Exxon redirecting its strategy towards the energy we need in a low-carbon future. Hardy har har. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. Anyways, guys, we are nearing the end of this broadcast. Sorry, I'm going to be a little bit short today. We have 108 watching, 44 likes. Please like up the video if you can. And if you are new, please subscribe. And I'm not going to stop talking shit about the Democrats. Sorry if anybody's offended. And even if Joe Biden wins the election, I'm going to talk major shit about the Democrats all day long, every single day, until they change or we get another party or something else happens, right? Right. Okay, got it, good. That's going to continue. So sorry if I offend you. Deal with it. Let's see. I am Sweet Leaf F, the two-party system. That's what I'm talking about. ERC 1, oil party. Both parties are the oil party. Indeed. Thank you, Black Crow. Don't care. Right on. Yeah, no, I think some people are like super concerned or whatever, or offended or something. I don't care. Continue being offended. Continue clutching the pearls. Oh. Let's see. Let's move on. Last thing I'm going to cover today, guys. Amazon near tipping point of switching from rainforest to savanna, says study. From today, from The Guardian. Oh, am I not going to be able to read? Hold on. Let's see if I can get this on another browser. Hold, please, for browser. Yes, much of the Amazon could be on the verge of losing its distinct nature and switching from a closed canopy rainforest to an open savanna with far fewer trees as a result of the climate crisis, researchers have warned. Rainforests are highly sensitive to changes in rainfall and moisture levels, and fires and prolonged droughts can result in areas losing trees and shifting to a savanna-like mix of woodland and grassland. In the Amazon, such changes were known to be possible but thought to be many decades away. Oopsie, much faster than expected. Now, new research shows that this tipping point could be much closer than previously thought. What? As much as 40% of the existing Amazon rainforest is now at a point where it could exist as a savanna instead of as a rainforest. 40%. Can we say very close to 50% or almost half? Any shift from rainforests to savanna would still take decades to take full effect, but once underway, the process is hard to reverse. Rainforests supply a vastly greater range of species than savanna and play a much greater role in absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They're also known as the lungs of the earth. Parts of the Amazon are receiving much less rain than they used to because of the changing climate. Rainfall in about 40% of the forest is now at a level where the rainforest could be expected to exist as savanna instead, according to the study led by the Stockholm Resilience Center based on computer models and data analysis. Last year, Brazil's president, Jair Bolsonaro, was warned that the continued destruction of the Amazon by fire and loggers would bring the region closer to a tipping point where rainforest could turn to savanna. This year's fires in the Amazon are the worst in a decade, with a 60% increase in fire hotspots compared with last year. Ari Stahl, lead author of the study, said, "The ecology of rainforests meant that although they can effectively produce their own self-sustaining rainfall in the right climate, they are also prone to drying out in the wrong conditions. As forests grow and spread across a region, this affects rainfall," he explained. Forests create their own rain because leaves give off water vapor, and this falls as rain further downward. Rainfall means fewer fires, leading to even more forests. But if a large area of rainforests are lost, rainfall levels in the region decline accordingly. This reduced level of atmospheric moisture recycling was simulated in the computer models used in this study. Drier conditions make it harder for the forest to recover and increase the flammability of the ecosystem, Stahl told The Guardian. Once rainforest has crossed the threshold and converted to an open savanna-type mix of wood and grassland, it is unlikely to revert naturally to its former state. It is harder to return from the trap caused by the feedback mechanism in which the open, grassy ecosystem is more flammable, and the fires, in turn, keep the ecosystem open. Here are the projected rainfall. Changes in rainfall and climate could radically reduce the Amazon rainforest before the end of the century. Again, this is happening much faster than expected, and probably faster than these graphs want to show you or will show you. So climate stable for rainforest, here it is, a very large area. Here's what they're saying it's going to be in 2071, but what is it now, since it's 2020? What's it going to be between 2020 and 2050, say? Yeah. They also looked at what was likely to happen if greenhouse gas emissions kept rising, if, being the operative word, meaning will, at least for the near future, and found that the ability of forests to grow back once trees were lost would be much reduced. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there.